Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I was actually outside doing some watering and then it started to rain. Can you believe it? I start watering and then it rains. Anyway, I thought, well, I'll pop up and we'll create a card because that's what being creative is all about. Sort of whenever the feeling takes you and you want to create, well, then we should create, and that's me today. So I'm trying to get comfortable on my chair, which I spend more time pushing in and out, but there you go. I've got my 5x7 gel press and mine is very stained but still works perfectly. So I've got my 5x7 gel press. I don't know what's on there, I'm just leaving it on there anyway. And what I'm going to do is add some colours to the gel press. And when I use the oxides, I love it because I don't have to rush. Now, you've seen me do this many times before, but that doesn't mean we can't do it again and create sort of a different card or a different floral. And what's hilarious is there's one of my hairs, you couldn't make it up, it's actually on the camera. Let's just remove that. So if you heard that sort of squeaking sound, that was me removing a hair from the camera. There you go, that's what all the professionals do. So I've got my colours and I'm putting them in order of intensity. So I'm just checking that you can see what I'm doing. I've got my brayer, and those of you that visit my YouTube channel frequently know that I have one brayer for paints and one brayer for inks. I know that's a bit of a luxury, but I've been doing this for many years, so I do have two brayers and I've had them years. So I'm going to use the oxides on the gel press. Now, sometimes when I demonstrate, I do repeat things, and I repeat things because you never know who's visiting your website. And if it's somebody that's only just starting out, I don't really want to miss any information out because then, you know, the technique might not work properly for them. So I do repeat some things. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with salvaged patina. Now, this is a very pale colour, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply this direct to the gel press. Now, whatever I place on the top, I'm going to take some of that salvage patina off. That's just what happens. What I've got on the side is I've got a spare piece of card. I think it's 4x6 inches. The card I'm using is 300 GSM Pink Frog Smooth card. So that's just a scrap piece of card. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to take some shaded lilac. Now, I know from using the shaded lilac quite frequently that that is a reasonably pale colour. And you can see I've got the brayer uppermost just so that I don't lean the ink on anything. And then what I'm going to do is sort of do a wheelie and put some of that ink on there. And then I'm going to add that colour to my spare piece of card. Now, that will have picked up some of the salvaged patina. Now, you're saying, like, Tracy, I can hardly see anything. Trust me, it's there. With the naked eye, you can see it. So as you add the colours, you will lift some of the salvage patina. I'm then going to take some peacock feathers. Now, I know this is a very sort of rich colour, and I don't want to overpower my gel press too much with that colour. So what I'm going to do is, again, just sort of lightly add the colour, and then I'm going to take off the excess colour onto my spare piece of card, because we may as well create two cards or two backgrounds at the same time. I'm then going to take wilted violet. Now, wilted violet is a very strong colour, so I just add sort of patchy layers of this onto my brayer. And I'm just going to add just a little bit of that, and then I'm going to add the rest to my spare piece of card. And can you see I brayer over the card many times just to blend that colour? So I brayer over many times. Now, there's still lots of colour on there, So continue to sort of bray it over, because then I'm going to go to my selvage patina again. However, I know that there'll still be plenty of colour on this brayer, so we'll go over the card again so you can see me do it lots of times, and it looks like this is pretty clear. But if I use my wipe, can you see how much colour I can remove from that brayer? So we'll just turn this card over and just remove the moisture. There we go. And now I can go to the selvage patina, because I don't want to put all that beautiful purple ink all on to the Distress Oxide lighter ink pad. And can you see how much of the selvage patina I'm adding to that brayer, because it's a very pale colour. Now, as I add the selvage patina, I will pick up some of that purple colour that's on there back onto my brayer. So, and then what you can do is, if you want to change this background a little bit, you can then add some of the peacock feathers, and you can just brayer that out. And then you can add some of the selvage patina direct to the card if you just want to add sort of further layers of the colour. Don't worry about contaminating your ink pad, you can just wipe that off. But you've just then got another background, which we'll just leave that on one side at the moment. And then we'll just wipe our brayer again, because there is lots of ink on there, even though it looks pretty clean. Now, I love how I don't have to rush with the oxides. I don't have to panic. I can just let it do its thing. So let's remove our ink pads. And what I'm going to do then, I've got this in my shop, the Distress Spritz Wilted Violet, and I'm going to give that a shake. I do prefer to shake side to side, but sometimes you just have to knock it a little bit just to get that ball bearing going. And you want to mix the pigment and the sort of the, because these have a, what is the word? You've got the pigment suspended. So before you spray it directly onto the surface, you just need to sort of mix that pigment. Couldn't get my words out. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to spritz some of that onto my background. So let's just pick that up and let's place this card that we've just braided off the excess. Let's then add some of the colour. Sometimes I like to just spritz very lightly. Now, before you put the lid on, which I shouldn't do, just do some cleaning. So just clean, because you can see there's like some of the pigment there on your spritz. So just wipe that before you put the lid on. So let's just move these out of the way, and you can see that I'm not rushing the process. Now, because I've spritzed this, also the oxide underneath will start to react. So I'm just going to let that do its thing, just so that you'll see that it will shine. Let's just add that. You can actually air dry, or you can allow it to dry naturally. Now, I just put a piece of copier paper, just because then I can just collect any of that. So now what I've got is I've got a piece of Pink Frog smooth card measuring 4 inches by 6 inches, and then I can add this. So now I can just place this onto my gel press. Now, a lot of people will place a piece of copy paper over the top and then so that they can then press, but then I lose all that ink from around the edges. So I'm not going to do that because I could probably make another background, and it seems a shame to waste that. And very gently picking that up just so that you can see we have just a beautiful background, and I'm so pleased you can visibly see the selvage patina, which is wonderful. So what we'll do now is we will just take another piece of card, and I'm just going to spritz this with water and just pick up anything that is left, on that gel press. Okay, you can see that I could also, let's grab our heat tool. Let's move the gel press out of the way because I don't want to use the heat tool on that. So we could dry this. I've now made 3 backgrounds. Which is just wonderful. I love the fact. Also, we've still got some on there. So let's go back to our background that was from the gel press. And let's pick up some of the bits and pieces just lying on the gel press, just to add a little bit more detail. And then we will spritz with a little bit more water, and then we'll use our spare piece of card and just pick up anything that is remaining on the gel press. It's surprising how much is layering on there. I'll just give that a little bit of a dry. So this is just a mop up. Let's just turn that over. I can still see little beads on the gel press. So again, we will use our background that we picked up the gel print, and we'll just mop up some of those again. And again, I will do this on this piece of card as well, just to pick up anything that is on there. So then we can move our gel press on one side. There just isn't any one side. Right, so let's just bring in our backgrounds. So this is our gel press print. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit more of the Distress Spritz, which is going to be lovely for Christmas as well. So let's just give those a dry. And you will get like a very nice shimmy, not too much in your face, but just a beautiful shimmy. So you can let it dry naturally, or you can dry it with the heat tool. So now we've got 3 backgrounds we've created. The one that we took the gel press print, the second where we braided off the excess, and the third where we mopped up whatever was left on the gel press. So let's just turn this over. Now give those a really good dry. Take time to just give that a lovely dry. Let's dry this one. I'll lift them up so you can see the backgrounds when we've dried them completely. I mean, this one, I suppose I don't really need to worry about drying because I'm not going to be using all 3 backgrounds now. just going to use one of the backgrounds. So let's just straighten these out a little bit and let's take a look at our backgrounds. So in 15 minutes, this is the one where we braid off the excess inks onto the background. And I love the shimmer because it's not tacky shimmer, if that makes sense. It's sort of very classy. It looks lovely. And because the actual shimmers that we're using, the Distress Spritz sort of shimmery that we're using, coordinate beautifully with the ink pads we're using. So it works really nicely. So that's the one where we braid off. This is the one where we picked up the excess. You can see that's still not dry, so you will get a touch more shimmer. But that's just an extra background we created. Excuse me. And this is the gel press print that we took from the gel press. And you've got that touch of shimmer on there, which you never pick up on a photograph. And that's why doing videos are just wonderful. Right, okay. So now I'm going to take my circular template, which those of you that visit my site frequently will know that I use this quite a lot. They're just circles that I've cut out with an old die. I don't really use dies very much, but this is a circular die. It's around about 3 3/4 inches across. And I sort of punched out holes with hole punches, and I just keep it as a template. So I'm just going to add this circle around about there, and I'm just going to use my pencil just to add that circle. I'll decide if I want another one, but just not at the moment. But just so that you can see, there's the circle in pencil, just so that you can see that. And I love making backgrounds like this. I mean, if you get your gel press out, you could do lots of backgrounds. So then I'm going to use the Abutylon stamp set TE7. Let me just have a look. So do I want this one, or do I want the Abutylon? You see, the Abutylon just hangs nicely there. It's got to be the Abutylon. Just hangs nicely. Where are you? There it is. I don't know why I have to line it up in the same place, but it's just me all over. So I'm going to use my Abutylon stamp, and I'm going to use grey ink. So I'm going to use Versafine Claire Morning Mist. I love the Morning Mist one. She says she can't get the lid off. Oh, I've not had that problem for ages. Couldn't get the lid off then. So we've got my Morning Mist ink, and it doesn't matter what stamp I use, I always make sure that I've got a really good layer of ink. I find that if I spend a couple of seconds just making sure there's plenty of ink on there and I don't scrimp, I have less sort of frustrations. So we'll just add that there, like so. We'll just give that time. Now you've got that oxide layer on there on your Pink Frog smooth card, so the card is no longer as absorbent, so this ink just sort of lies on the surface, so you just have to be aware of that. So just give that a couple of seconds, just so that that detail is picked up on our card. Just beautiful. So let's give that a dry, just so that it's not lying on the surface. Just keep that from the reverse so that we can flatten that card out a little bit. There we go. And then we can just like so. That's it. So now let's have a look at some colours. I've got a little scrap of card here that I can just test colours, because this is the same card as this. Now, do I want them or do I want them? Let's just have a look. I have got my Ecoline pens here that Tracy's trying to reach. So let's have a test. So that's a nice pale colour. That is 580 pastel blue. And that is turquoise blue 522. And I think instead of doing the purple, we'll actually do the blue, just for a change. So I'm going to have a little bit of green on here as well, but I just want, just looking at my greens, I want something sort of not too in your face. That's nice and pale. That is pastel green 666, and just something with a touch of darkness. Bronze green 657. So, can't get the lid off this one. Always a sort of check your colours. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that dark colour. Just at the top area here. And then what I'm going to do is blend that colour with pastel green. So come in and sort of blend out the lines. Now, I'm not even going to, you know, normally these react with water. I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to keep the colour neat and just blend pen to pen. So then I'm going to take the darker colour, which is the turquoise blue 522, and I'm just going to add a touch of that turquoise blue, just at the edges. So just add that turquoise blue around the edges. And whilst that is still wet, I'm then going to blend out the edges with pastel blue. Just while that's still wet. Now you need to do that whilst it is still wet, just to blend out the edges. Now this pastel blue is a very pale colour. Now I've decided to use the pale blue just so that we can see a little bit of that purple. Let me lift this up, just so that we can see a little bit of that purple background underneath. So that's why I've chosen that, just because it just gives it a different feel. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go back with the darker green, and then I'm going to add another layer of the pastel green just to intensify the colour a little more. I'm going to do exactly the same with the turquoise blue. Just intensify the colour, and if you only want to do a little bit at a time, you can do just a little bit at a time, you know, and do a small area at a time if you want to blend that. But if you blend pen to pen, you can see blend before your eyes. So just, I do like the nice soft nibs just on these. So let's just wipe that up. So I've just blended pen to pen, and I've not blended it out with water. I've just blended pen to pen, and I can still see a little bit of the purple through there. So then what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab some purple. So I only want one pale colour. Again, let's grab our card. So that's my pale colour, which is pastel violet. And this is, what's that? Ultramarine violet. And what colour are you? Blue violet. Let's have blue violet. Let's move that back. That's it. So now I'm going to add a little bit of this purple, blue violet, whatever you want to call it. Just around the circle. I'm then going to take the pastel violet, and I'm just going to blend the edges and come out now. With this one, I'm going to take a little bit of water. So take a little bit of water. Now I know there was sort of a pinky colour on there, and then I'm let's just get, I've got wax on my non-stick craft sheet, so we're just going to blend out with the diluted version of the lightest colour. Now when you're using the water, you've obviously got oxide in there, so I'm using the palest colour, and that oxide will also start to react. I've got a bit of debris on there, so the oxide that you've got underneath will also start to react as well. So I'm just using a watered down version of the pastel violet just to add a little bit more depth just to that. I do like to faff a little bit. I'm going to have to wash my non-stick craft sheet because it's terrible. Let's move these all out of the way at the moment. So you can see I'm not using colours that are overpowering. We're going to add a little bit of shading. Now let's give this card a dry. You've added lots of layers, lots of moisture. You don't want to break your card down too much. There we go. Plus, I'm going to add a little bit of Inktense pencil just at the base of that circle. And now you'll know that this will be covered in some purple. Don't need too much moisture. And when you've got too much moisture, just take a little bit off on your kitchen roll. And just blend that Inktense grey pencil. If you don't have an Inktense pencil, use a nice grey oxide and blend with that. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to add a little bit of text to that background. So I'm going to take my Artsy Alphas and Numbers TE16. There we go. I love using this one because it gives me some nice detail. So I'm not going to use the grey yet. Let me just see what colours I've got. So we've got Lilac Blue, one of the new colours in the VersaFines. But before I do anything, again, obviously it's going to look different on here because you've got the purple ink down. That's a lovely colour. That's the Lilac Blue. I have got these colours in my shop. So what I'm going to do now is add a little bit of this stamping. Oh, just gorgeous. Just look at that stamping. I absolutely adore that stamp. Absolutely love it. And this is why I like being creative. It always brings me joy. So, and can you see, I'm inking the stamp and then I'm not pressing too hard. Because I'm not using an acrylic block, I don't need to press too hard. Look at that. Look how it just works. Oh, adore that stamp. Just love that stamp. Just love how it works. And because I've added it a paler colour, so let's just wipe that pale colour off. I can then go to the grey, which is the Morning Mist. And then you can pick out a small area of detail and then you can layer it over the top. Look, just yum, yum, yum. Oh, how stamps make me happy. There's so much you can do with them. So I can pick out just smaller areas and just add little touches of that text. So what shall we do next? Shall we add this one? So you can just add little touches of the text in the grey, and that comes to the foreground because it's richer and darker than the purple. But you don't want to add too much, so let me show you this. That stamp is just yummy. Right, so then I'm going to take Background Elements TE11. Let's grab the TE11. Now I want to bring something again more into the foreground. So to do that, I'm going to add little touches of Nocturne, the black, but I want to be careful, so curl your stamp a little bit and just add little touches. I'll lift this up so that you can see. And I'm just curling the stamp. It just gives me a more random feel. And this black, just a little bit of text, makes it look a touch botanical. Now let me show you that. So the black now is in the foreground, but just look how delicate that text is and how it can work with the previous background stamp. Just, oh, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So let's just move those out of the way. Now we've given that a little bit of time to rest, and if you haven't, just waft again with your heat gun, mainly because you've put that black and grey ink on a background that is no longer porous. You've also got touches of shimmer on there, so you want to make sure that that is dry. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to add touches of the white, just to give a little bit of detail to our floral, just give it a little bit more definition. And you can see I am very careful with how much white I add. I don't want it to sort of take over, but I'm just giving a little bit of detail. And just adding a little bit of detail to there. And then I'm going to add my white splatters before I add any of the wording. There you go. And I think this is what I like, because normally I'm not sort of a shimmery sort of glittery kind of person, unless it's subtle or vintagey, and it's just, I love this because it's just not too overpowering. Let me just show you the shimmer. There you can see the shimmer, and whoever receives the card, it's just lovely, really lovely. So then I want to add some wording. So I'm going to add nodding flowers. And we're going to add that on some white text, because that will pop nicely against the background. There we go. And I'm going to add this with black ink, because then it'll be in the foreground, and you don't need to press your stamp down much at all. You know, it's a finish text, so you don't need to press too hard that your sort of letters look like they're bleeding. There we go. Lovely. And I just think that pop of white will work beautifully against there. So we'll add that to our background. Again, move your sentiment around and decide where you want it. So I was going to put it there, but I think I'm going to put it there now, just so that I can see the shading around that circle, which is rather nice. So then I'm going to grab, oh, let's grab another stamp. I'm going to grab TE12, which is Shadowed Elements, the one that's got my little tiny bird on. Show you that. And I'm going to use my black ink once again. And sometimes, because it's a little stamp, you just catch the edge a little bit. I think I'm going to have it just on there. And again, you don't have to press this stamp very hard. You just need to allow the ink to absorb onto that surface. And really, I would like to add a touch of white to the bird. So it's important that I just give that a little dry. I mean, if you allow it to dry naturally, then that's perfect, because then you can allow your white, you can add your white touches. Trying to add touches of white to something that is wet is not going to work. So then we'll just, there we go. And just a few more splatters. And you might say, well, why are you adding more splatters, Tracy? You know how I layer colours, pencils, watercolour pencils, whatever? I'm just layering the Spit It Out Posca pen. So I'm going to add some Inktense pencil just under here. And then, as per normal, you look for your water brush. Let's just blend that out. Nice bit of shading there, just lovely. Just wipe that up. And then we'll add this to a black mat. And when you add it to a black mat, it really does pop. Just lovely. So we'll add this to our black mat. And I always add a little bit of adhesive to the centre. So the black mat is 1/4 of an inch bigger, and that's actually Pink Frog smooth card. Now, I always add some adhesive to the back, not to the back, to the centre, just so that I can make sure that that card is stuck down properly. The only thing is, and I tell you this quite frequently, I didn't get that straight. And what happened was I turned it over before I'd got it straight, and I can't leave that. That will just play with my head. So lift it up, and don't be frightened to just replace it down. That's better. I can't be having the card where it doesn't look right. That's it. Much better. Don't be frightened to take it off and put it back on again. Now, at the end of the day, we want it to look right. What I'm going to do then, I'm going to take an Inktense pencil, Parma Violet, and I'm just going to go around the edge just of the floral, just at the edge, just to emphasize a little more. Just blend the edges out with the lighter colour. So I'm just blending, it's only going round the bottom edge, so this is lavender, and it's just going around the edge. It was just going around the edge of there, and you will see it more with the naked eye. So you'll see it more with the naked eye. So then I'm going to add that to a 5 by 7 inch card blank. And therefore it's got a wider border. Shall we see if we can actually place this one on straight? Sometimes if you can't get it straight away, stand up. You can actually see a little bit better where you're placing everything. That's lovely. Just give that a couple of seconds just to grab hold. Just do our adhesive up, and don't forget to press in the centre as well. And I just love how it's turned out. I have to say, that background stamp, this one, I just think that is just wonderful. TE16, just works beautifully. And I love how you can see touches of purple through the Abutilon. I also like that it's got that touch of shimmer without being tacky. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Now, if you want to highlight some of the grey letters, you could add touches of white if you want, but I didn't want to do that. I hope you've enjoyed that demonstration. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.